My view is build America, start with our own civics. We owe our country, why it's so important, what freedom and democracy are about, build our economy, and at the economic power is the root of all those things. It allows you to do all other things, and then have a very sophisticated role about how we're going to maintain American leadership, but for America. We're not doing it, out of just the goodness of our hearts. And I also think it needs to be more realpolitik. We lecture I go all around the world as you did, and we're constantly lecturing people about their labor laws and their climate and their all these things. And I'm not against furthering human rights, but it should be subordinated. So it needs to be subordinated to national security interests and realpolitik. There's that great quote when Stalin was telling FDR and Churchill at Yalta, I think, or Potsdam, I think it was Yalta, that he wanted to do something. And FDR said, "Mr. President, the Pope wouldn't agree with that." And Stalin leaned forward and said, "Exactly how many divisions does the Pope have?" And that's the game we're in. And we do these dumbest things in the name of good that actually make us weaker and make our allies weaker. And so we have to be very thoughtful. And I'll be reaching out to the new administration on that. We reached out to the old administration. We've hired national security experts to help our clients. And then, a little bit of a mea culpa. We all made a mistake, and it should be acknowledged. This is something we have to whip ourselves about. All of us should have been a little more thoughtful about China going back about 10 years. And, at one point they entered WTO in 2000, but they were starting to abuse it by 2012, and we should have been more thoughtful then. They were really thinking it through, and we were just kind of happy-go-lucky. All of us, and so was the government, but now's the time to say, okay, no, they can't be mercantilists. They can't, beggar thy neighbor economically. They can't do certain things they're doing. We have the better hands. I'm not telling Americans, worry about it. I'm saying let's just make sure we build a really strong company. Let's make sure we have unparalleled military strength that is unquestioned, because the best way to avoid a war is to be strong. I can borrow other things. So I just think we got to fight for that America and remind ourselves and educate our kids and educate people why it's important, educate people what the interlinks between those things.
It's, we've covered a lot of fronts here, and it's been fun, having this conversation. I want to have some more with my lightning round of questions. And are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
3 words that best describe you.
Tenacious, relentless, tenacious and relentless. I love to learn all the time.
If you could be one person for a day besides yourself, who would it be?
Abe Lincoln.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
Bureaucracy.
Who would play you in a movie?
Well, my wife would want Harrison Ford or George Clooney, but they are obviously better looking than I am.
What's a Greek delicacy everyone should try?
Moussaka.
The last time you put on boxing gloves and punched someone?
Oh, God. That was 15 years ago.
Your favorite memory from the U.S. Open tennis tournament?
Opening a business week one day and seeing Steffi Graf serving in a picture, and then I looked really closely at what was behind her, and I could see my little daughter, who's 8 years old, looking at her. That was probably the best moment for me. And my granddaughters have been, those big, what they call teletrons, whatever. They've been on that a couple of times when they're watching I try to take them every year.
What's the one thing you do just for you?
Read history.
Your most prized possession?
My family.
If I turned the radio on in your car, what would I hear?
Just music, just general music.
What's something about you few people would know?
I'm actually a pushover, and I'm actually quite easy. And
I think that might be just a little bit of a stretch.
If you ask all my family members, who's the easiest one when it comes to where you eat, where you travel, what you do, when you get up, they would say, Dad. I just want to do whatever makes me happy.
What's one of your daily rituals, something that you never miss?
Reading the papers in the morning.
All right. Well, we're out of the lightning round, and I just got a few more questions, and we'll wrap this up, okay? I got to ask you, tell us the story of what it was like when you had your first child.
Well, that's, I think for everyone, that's like an unforgettable experience. And I remember my wife had some complications with that, so it was a cesarean. So she came out looking good. But I remember holding her, my little daughter, with a little teeny rib cage, and then she stretched, and just holding this little stretching baby. And then she yawned and hiccuped, which, she did quite a bit. And like holding a new life in your hands is extraordinary.
You now have this incredible family with 3 daughters and 7 grandchildren, and you've now got a 2-year-old grandson. You have all these daughters. And what was it like when you finally got the grandson?
Well, first of all, I have two wonderful son-in-laws, and you have a daughter. You probably worried like I did earlier. Like, what if you don't like the son-in-laws? Like, what if they get married and you don't? I adore these kids. They're both wonderful fathers and husbands and son-in-laws, and they're delightful to be with. We all travel together. We like their families, so we're like one happy-go-lucky. When we finally found out there was a boy, I mean, I didn't. It's hard even to contemplate it for us because I never had a baby boy, and so. But he's quite. I put him in quite a pampered category. All six of the other kids, will pick him up and carry him around and play with him, and I don't think he has any idea what he's going to have to learn to grow up with. I mean, I can imagine all those girls. Whenever he brings home a girlfriend, eventually they're going to all want to vet the girlfriend.
I bet so. You and I both had our health issues, and you've struggled with cancer, and how is that? How much did that really change you, or did it?
It did, and I think it changed me over time. I don't think you realize immediately what it does, but as you know, when someone says you have cancer, your life changes, and I tell a lot of people, everyone knows they're going to die, but that when they say it, all of a sudden it's like in your face. And you have to contemplate dying all the time until even now, you're a survivor, but all the time until they say you're in remission. And of course, radiation and chemo can be absolutely devastating. And I remember I wouldn't go tell my parents. I told my wife, you have to tell them because I didn't want to tell my parents I may die before them. And so the thing that changed is it does make you live a little more deliberately about how you run your life and what you do and how you spend your time. It wasn't like I was going to change. I love working. I love my country. It didn't change that, but it did change how you deal with certain people and certain issues. And I think because of that, when I had the second health issue, I was being wheeled into the surgery, and I knew it was maybe not even 50-50 I would survive, that I didn't have any regrets because the ones I might have had, I actually fixed the first time around.
A mutual friend of ours, it's the late head of Goldman Sachs, John Weinberg. He had this line, which I love. He said, you either grow or you swell.
Yeah.
How do you manage not getting a big head? I mean, just think of what you run and everything you've accomplished. And
this is my belief because I always quote him too in that because that when people get the big job, it's shocking sometimes how they act. And all of us who get the big job is actually creates more humility because how little you know about certain things and yet you're responsible for them. But other people, but I think what it is, it's how you're grounded. And that grounding comes from your whole life experience. But it's the insecurity. It's the insecure people who, when they get that big job, it makes them so insecure that the way they fix it is by controlling the meetings, by having friends of Bill, by having friends of this, by everyone knows this is what they want. And they never want to be embarrassed. They never want to look bad. They're the ones who won't go on some of these trips because they're afraid of being criticized. And you see these traits. And you see them and that doesn't have to be the CEO of a company. It could be the CEO of a division. And other people, there's none of that. I tell people, and you know how insecure your listeners may not understand that when you run a company. So make believe I'm running a trading desk that does mortgages. And if I want to do mortgages, I have to call that guy who runs it. He knows more about than I know or anybody else. I say, hey, what about this? What about that? Why don't we do this? But maybe he gets promoted. And now he's running 6 divisions, mortgages and credit and equities and stuff like that. Well, all of a sudden he's an expert in 1 and he's learning 5. And then he gets promoted again. Okay, now he's an expert in 6 and he's learning 30. And so the higher you get, the more insecurity it breeds, which is why I think that some people, they turn inward, they get scared, they block it, they cover up their anxiety. And other people, they're more like, they realize they don't know all that stuff and they reach out for help. And they have that curiosity and recognition and all those things we talk about heart and curiosity. But I think it's how you're grounded. I don't think it's just it happens.
Yeah, one of the things about you, Jamie, is you've been in position for a long time at JP Morgan Chase, and many would call you like the John Wooden of financial expertise, coaching, whatever. I mean, you are the John Wooden. I mean, and it was very difficult when John Wooden retired to ever replace John Wooden. I mean, how do you think about replacing your yourself? And do you give yourself high marks on your process that you have for that?
Yes, so far, obviously the decision is the most important, but the board is fully engaged. That my board knows everybody. They see them freely. They take them out. So there's no blockage of those folks. We have the same list everyone has about, all the skills you need and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I put character and culture as that's a sine qua non. Heart, curiosity, work at drive, grit. You better have a little bit of grit. It's this basket of things that make up a human being. It's not one thing. And we have people with great skills across the board. And I think the board believes that, and I believe that. I took the board through successful succession planning, unsuccessful succession planning. So like what worked and what didn't work. Several people on my board have been through it. So they've told the board how they approach and stuff like that. So we're doing it pretty systemically. And we think we've got people who've got that full broad range of capabilities. I don't like it when someone says, what are you looking for? A technologist or a marketing person? No. You're looking for that whole set of stuff. That they carry the culture, they got the energy, they bring people with them. They don't have to be perfect at any one thing, but they have to have that spectrum of stuff where people actually want to work at the company. They get the best out of the other people, and I think we have many people who can do that.
Last question here. If you could give one piece of advice to any leader, what would it be?
I would go back to make sure you have heart and curiosity and give a damn and understand that you don't know it all and you're not even the expert anymore.
Jamie, I want to thank you for all this time, and I want to thank you for your friendship. You're always there. You're always there. I mean, we don't get together all the time, but when we do, we pick up from where we last left each other. And, last year, my wife passed away, and in February, you and Judy were there. And you're there for people when they need them most. And I thank you for being that kind of friend for me. You're an amazing guy, and I'm blessed to have you as a friend.
Well, David, you've always been there for me also, and both you and I love you, and it's great spending some time with you.